If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.
You know, relaying that a little bit, it's interesting to, I guess, my career, I'm symbolic of business in America right now, because 10 years ago I'm on the front of the magazine. Like companies that take off, you know, at the .com, now half those companies are broke and I'm the village idiot and out of work. So I guess that's how it works in America. But that was a very special time for everybody, obviously. And you're to be congratulated for being recognized for what you are. Being one of the top groups, particularly here in Baltimore, with each of your companies. You know, it's amazing. I do a great deal of corporate speaking, go all over the country. And it's fascinating to me, it doesn't take long for me to step into a room, and whether it's a convention, whether it's a seminar, whether it's a project design, whatever it is that they've come together to talk about and have asked me to participate, I always love interacting with companies. You know, certainly I'm not going to be able to talk to them about their business. It'd be presumptuous of me to talk about their business. I don't know your business. And so what I usually do is talk about my industry and let them connect the dots, because my industry was a business. You know, the players knew the language of business, right? Nothing personal, just business means you just got screwed, right? Business as usual, you're going to get screwed again. And the one we coaches are all too familiar with, it's an unfortunate side of the business, which means you just got fired. So what I typically do is I get up and talk about my experiences in all but a different business, but in the industry. But it's interesting, as I get a chance, one of the reasons I enjoy doing it is I get a chance to interact with companies. And in today's climate, it's very easy to recognize those companies that recognize the opportunity before them and those that are just trying to weather the storm, that are just trying to hang on. And it's amazing how many of the companies that I do that are seizing the moment, that recognize, you know what, if it weren't for the difficulties that we're going through right now, this opportunity may not present itself right now. Many of you may know I'm partners with Nestor Aparicio at WNST. I wanted to find a way to stay connected with Baltimore, and that was an outstanding way. You talk about adapting what was a radio station, which we all know, like the newspapers, are slowly dying, and all becoming web-based. And that transition, that's a huge opportunity. It's a huge opportunity for businesses, and you either recognize that change. I was at a function the other day. A therapist got up. I don't know if he's right or not, but it was fascinating. He said 70% of the technology that we're going to use 10 years from now hasn't even been invented. That's stunning to me. The other thing that really jumped out at me, and as I visit with companies, for those that haven't read The World is Flat by Thomas Friedman, incredible book. Obviously, the flatteners that he talks about is the horizontal model of that in this new world of technology, what used to be proprietary to the big companies, and I'm sure many of your companies are in business today because you're able to keep up with the big guys because of the explosion in technology. But there was something in the book that jumped out at me. As I go around and visit with businesses, it becomes more and more apparent. Because a perfect example of what I'm about to talk about, I do games for Fox. I'm with the Fox network. I was with David Hill the other day, who's the president of Fox. And we were talking about this 3D technology, the explosion that brings about, and being in front of that curve. And everything's going to be in 3D. And his observation was, yeah, and as usual, it's going to come back to, you know, because we were talking about, geez, it takes away from the plot lines, and it takes away from characters, and it's all about the 3D. He says, no, that's just initially, because once everybody sees it and steals it, we're like coaches. You see something new, you copy it, you steal it, you make it your own, take credit for it. But even in the 3D, once it becomes totally saturated with 3D, what's it going to do? It's eventually going to come back to the storylines. It's going to eventually come back to the product anyway. And when the reason I alluded to The World is Flat, there was a point I like to bring up for people that haven't read the book or maybe skimmed over it that jumped out at me, and I think it's very apropos to this room. He had interviewed a gentleman in Bangalore, India. Now this gentleman had started a computer help outsourcing company based in India. I did a thing on my AOL not long ago, and the person that helped me had a dialect from that part of the world, and incredibly helpful. I don't know if it worked for this guy's company. But this is a guy that ostensibly has made billions in a technological field. And Thomas Friedman asked him, what's the key to doing business the next millennium? What's the secret? And his answer was immediate. He said it's simple. The key to doing business in the new millennium is developing and maintaining relationships. That was stunning to me in a technological field. And I think we're finding the same things. That regardless of what business you're in, That, yeah, you can get a competitive edge, and there may be something technologically that allows you to compete with the other guys. The business that we have with WNST, a little 5,000-watt station, we could not compete with the big guys. But on the internet, that access is limitless. And as long as you put the content out there, and you make it focused on, for us, it's what's going on in Baltimore, what's going on in Baltimore sports. If you can bring that kind of focus to it and create that kind of interaction, that's where you're going to get an advantage. In the National Football League, in the old days, and I'm not that old, but in the old days, when you were a coach, it was simple. You know, it was, when I say jump, you say how high, right? Now you say, I say jump, and it's, well, why? Is that my contract? And why should I do that? And you know what? You better have an answer for that. It comes back to that personal relationship, that ability to relate to the players, the coaches, the fans, the media, no matter who you're dealing with, that interpersonal communication. Obviously, the explosion in technology gives us an access point to enhance that, but it comes back, just like in your business, back to that interpersonal relationship, which is kind of exciting. I do a great deal on college campuses. And talk about technology, I taught a class in leadership at UMass last week from my living room on my home in the Wye River, all via Skype. I must have done a dozen classes on college campuses now. Their ability to get people of substance on campus now, instead of the expense of them getting there and the like, they literally do it in Skype to interact with these young kids and to see, and the generation that recognizes that opportunity that didn't exist before, when it's the idea that, you know, a lot of you are kind of my age where you're looking and going, it's all been invented, it's all been done, well, it's all starting over anew. And when I go around and I visit with the corporate types and recognize those people that grasp that and recognize that and are excited about it, even though it's a difficulty, those are the ones that you can tell, those are the ones that are going to survive the times we're going through now. Much like the people in this room, you're to be congratulated for this recognition. I know it's not done lightly. It's very real. It's very Baltimore. I'm thrilled that I had something to do with the start of CEO Smart Magazine, and hopefully it's going to be around for a long time. Really appreciate the chance to visit with your folks, and congratulations.
If you love Baltimore sports, you'll love WNST.net.